Welcome, and good afternoon. It is April 13th, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn with Sandra, your RDN, where I am dishing out your weekly dose of nutrition news for the mind, the body, and the soul. And I hope everybody is having a wonderful Tuesday. It is beautiful here in Orlando, Florida. Summer is fastly approaching, so we're having some hot days already. So I am excited to be here today. And as people are chiming on, I always welcome my live guests. I love it when you guys take that time out of your busy schedule, help kind of create those boundaries, kind of take a little break from all the hecticness of your day, just to tune in, just to have a little self care and hear about how you can help you and to make you a better person that you are. And I thank those who listen to the replay after you've had a long day, that you take time out to listen to the replay again to feed you and to help to make you a better person. We all want to be better, right? And so thank you again for joining. And I am beginning a new series. So I'm excited to share that we are going to spend a little time talking about something that I think is very near and very dear to all of us. It affects all of us, men, women, dietitians, non-dietitians, and the like. And so we are going to start talking about stress and stress eating, why it happens, what do we do to stop it? I mean, can we really stop it? And so during this particular mini series that I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about some mindful eating, some specific strategies that will help you to avoid overeating out of stress, anxiety, boredom. And of course, that leads to other health problems, right? But of course, the obvious is unwanted weight gain. So today, we're going to specifically talk about stress. And how stress and weight gain go hand in hand, okay? Because a lot of times people don't really understand the tie. I mean, yeah, it's obvious because we think we're overeating, but I want to speak a little bit more about that to just to give you some more nuggets to put into your toolbox. And so just some statistics. So let's start out with some statistics. So a survey conducted by the American Psychological Association, so the APA, found that 3 out of 4 Americans reported experiencing some type of stress symptom before, even before COVID broke out. Okay. And some of those top stressors are like acne, headaches. That's a big one. Headaches, migraines, chronic pain, decreased energy, insomnia, and even appetite changes. All right. And so stress is something that most people will experience, especially during this present time, during the pandemic, right? And many are still wondering, how to relieve the stress, how do we relieve the anxiety? And with the impacts of COVID-19, many of us are still wondering, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle it? So today and over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to do this particular series because I want to be able to empower you and just to kind of give you some insight, because stress eating is difficult, and stopping it and getting a handle on it is difficult. I always say weight loss is really never about weight loss. It's about all the other things that are connected that make it difficult for us to get a handle on reaching our weight loss goals. And stress eating and the triggers for stress eating is one of those. And at the end, I'm going to give 10 proven tips that will help you to begin that process. And so I see people chiming in. And so as you chime in, please introduce yourself, say where you're calling from, tell me how your weather is, anything that you would like to share, any successes that you have in your own health journey. I would love to hear that. And so for those who don't know me, my name is Sandra Gultry, and I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. And I have the pleasure of coming on here every single week. And I just love giving you all information. And I like to give a different perspective. I'm hoping I'm giving people a different perspective into addressing your total body wellness and your weight loss goals. And without dieting, without feeling deprived, without feeling like you have to feel pain and tiredness in order to reach your goals. And a lot of times people are working hard, you're eating, you change your eating habits, you're exercising, and you're not getting the results. So this is the things that I love to do to try to help people bridge that gap to where they are and where they want to go. Alrighty. And so, just as a recap, we are talking about stress and stress eating. It's a new series. Specifically today, how stress, immunity, and weight go hand in hand. And so, I always like to start out by kind of polling and see where we are. And while we are doing this poll, I'm actually going to make sure that I can see the comments. So, give me a little second here, and I will make sure that I am able to see your comments and your name. So let me get things set up on my end. But you see the question there posed, and I am going to set my other window up here so that I can see you all comments. And hopefully, if you have a question, then I'll be able to address. All right, I'm all set up. And so the first question is so during this pandemic, would you say that you've gotten a handle on your weight or weight gain? Because many people are still kind of snacking, still kind of stress eating, emotional eating. So would you say you got a handle on it? You're still struggling with it? Never missed a beat. Some people didn't miss a beat. Some people kind of rode the wave, and stress eating just wasn't something they had to deal with during this pandemic. So let me know where you are in this process, and that'd be great to kind of get a poll of who we have on the call today. And so we are going to start out with okay, I see Krista says she had a handle on it. That's awesome. That's a good thing. That is definitely a good thing. And so our first topic for today is stress, weight gain, and cortisol levels. Okay, so we want to understand that connection. Okay, we hear cortisol a lot. And so unfortunately, excess stress can lead to increased weight. And whether the extra rate is a result of overeating or in unhealthy food choices or your body's response, our response to that fight or flight response to higher levels of cortisol. Getting a handle on stress is a priority if you want to help prevent the stress related weight gain. So most people don't notice at first though, but stress can have a noticeable effect on your body. Okay, so from tight muscles to headaches to feeling irritated, you feeling overwhelmed. I get that one a lot, feeling overwhelmed, and you're just out of control. And stress takes its toll on our physical, our mental, and our emotional health. And so, in many cases, you feel the effects of stress right away. Okay, so but there are other ways where your body will respond to stress, such as weight gain, and it may take a little time for it to notice. Sometimes the weight gain is slow, and all of a sudden you look in the mirror or you get on the scale and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? The body responds to stress by increasing levels of cortisol. Okay, and this is a stress hormone. So it's a stress hormone that is usually in response to a threat. Remember that fight or flight. And so when you no longer perceive the threat, then the cortisol levels return to normal. So this is no big deal. This is like a normal reaction in our body. But if the stress is always present, then you can experience an overexposure to cortisol, which in which that problem is a significant appetite stimulant. So it causes us to want to eat, and it stimulates what we call that gremlin hormone or the greedy hormone. And this is the reason why so many people respond to stress by going to food for comfort. Very, very common. And so, a few steps to help combat the stress related weight gain is to recognize the warning signs, the stresses, such as anxiety, irritability, muscle tension. Kind of note the times of the day when you start feeling those stresses. Before you eat, ask yourself, why are you eating? Are you truly hungry? Is this a normal meal, or are you feeling anxious? Or are you feeling procrastination because you're overwhelmed and you want to kind of delay some things? That's a big one too. If you're tempted to eat when you're not hungry, try to find a distraction. Okay, try to find a distraction. Don't skip meals, especially breakfast. Okay, this is a very common one too. Don't skip breakfast. If you're in a hurry, grab something, piece of toast, a piece of fruit, string cheese, something. Put something in your stomach, on your stomach rather, and eat a healthy eating pattern overall. You want to have a variety of foods that you're eating around the plate, whole grains, variety of fruits and vegetables. Aim to include most of your food groups in your meals and identify your comfort foods. Okay, everybody has that, that danger food, that go-to food. Identify your comfort foods, and sometimes you got to keep them at your house. You just got to keep it out your house, especially if you know you do not have control. Okay. Sometimes we just got to do that. Okay. So I would love to know from the people here, what is your go-to food during stressful times? Like, what are your go-to food? For me, it's that crunchiness. So I'm going for the nuts and almonds and things like that. Yeah, healthy food, right? So it doesn't always have to be chips and cookies and things like that. But if it's too much, it's too much. So what would you say your particular go-to food is when you are stressed? Or maybe it's a drink. Sometimes it's a drink. It's not always food. So just depends on the person. So definitely chime in on that. So next, stress in our immune system. A lot of times people don't realize that there's a connection there, but how stress affects our immune system. So our immune system, as we know, is a collection of billions of cells, travels through our bloodstream, and then they move in and out of our tissues and our organs, right? Defending against germs, antibodies, bacteria, viruses, cancerous cells. When we are stressed, though, the immune system's ability to fight off the antigens is reduced. So we're more vulnerable. And this is why we are more susceptible to infections when we are stressed out. And so the stress hormone, cortisol, can suppress the effectiveness of our immune system. Okay. And so ongoing stress, though, leads us to makes us more susceptible to illnesses and disease. And some experts claim that stress is responsible for about 90% of all the illnesses and diseases, including cancers and heart diseases. So stress is real, okay? And the way it does this is it triggers a chemical reaction and flooding the body with cortisol, and that also decreases our white blood cells, our NK cells, which are special cells that kill cancer, increases tumor development and growth, and it increases our rate of infection due to tissue damage. So here are some few little tips that will help you to lower your cortisol levels, okay? Cortisol levels, and which will help keep your immunity high. So when your cortisol levels are low, your immunity is high. So some ways you can do this. So tend to your spirituality, developing and growing your faith. Okay. So there's a lot to say about praying, right? A lot to say about praying and studying and just the spiritual part of healing our bodies. Get the right amount of sleep. Okay. Anybody who follows me knows that I speak a lot about sleep. Okay. And it is important. And we live in a society pre COVID where I don't have time for 7 hours of sleep, at least. That's ideal for an adult, 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If you find yourself saying it's too much to get 7 hours of sleep, or you don't have 7 hours of sleep, you have too much going on. I'm just going to be honest. You have way too much going on, and sleep is very important. It affects so much in our whole body processes. Okay, so get the right amount of sleep, and that helps keep our cortisol levels in check. Exercise. Okay, now you want to exercise effectively. Okay, you follow me. I'm all about effective exercise. It's not about hitting it hard all the time. It's not about you got to feel all this pain all the time. Because that's not effective either. So you want to have effective exercise. You don't want to do hit and lift heavy every single day. So you have to have effective exercise, okay, in order to keep your cortisol levels in check. Learn to recognize stressful thinking. Okay, you know, I'm a firm believer that what we think, thoughts turn into things. So we want to have a positive mindset about things. Even when things don't look so good, we still want to have a positive mindset. We always want to kind of look at the glass as half full versus the glass as half empty. I used to be that girl that used to think, oh, the glass is half full. I used to call it being realistic. But I've learned over time that, it's not being positive. It is being more negative, and I was just kind of masking it as, oh, well, I'm just trying to be realistic. Eat healthy foods. Again, diet, diet, diet. Eating pattern, eating pattern is such a critical role. There's no need to take all these different thousands of supplements, spending all your money. When you can get it from eating food, if you eat around a plate, you would get most of those things to where you don't have to take as many supplements. Okay. So you don't want to depend on supplements. All right. All righty. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So I see Krista's food of choice during stressful times is salty and spicy. Very, very common. And so I have a question. I have a question here for you all about what are you looking forward to when this quarantine is lifted? Okay, for fun. What are you looking forward to? because we've been cooped up, right? There's a lot of things we haven't been able to do, like travel, just do some of the fun things that we do around our where we live. What are some of the things that you are looking forward to? I know in my case, I mean, we haven't even been in the sanctuary. We haven't been in church. We've been doing things online. And so the church that I attend, which is Rejoice in the Lord Ministries, they're opening their doors at a limited capacity on this Sunday. And so I'm looking forward to that. But what are some of the things that maybe you've not been able to do or didn't feel comfortable doing, and you're kind of slowly getting back into it? Okay. So I'd love to hear about that. All righty. So taking it on in. Now, before I share these 10 tips on how to, or proven tips on how to reduce your stress, I definitely want to share because stress and stress eating is real. It's a struggle. It is difficult. It is something that is very hard to shake on your own. And I know this because it's something that I deal with, that I've dealt with, and I have to continue to be intentional about it. Okay. Stress eating, especially when it gets to a point where it's habitual, when it's like you just on autopilot. Something happens and you instantly you're trying to look for something to mask what the reality is. And so it is definitely something that you don't want to deal with on your own, because it leads to in my case, elevated blood pressure. It can lead to other things like your blood sugar levels increasing, you lose sleep, you feel even more anxiety, and of course the obvious weight gain. So everything just kind of spirals when we allow stress eating to get out of control. And so and I wanted to offer my services, my time, because it is important where we can have a conversation, about what your triggers are, what your triggers are, and to help you to navigate and manage that, because it's nothing that gets solved overnight. And that's for sure. You're going to fall many, many times, but usually when you fall, it gets better and it gets better. But it does take time to gain control back. Okay, not saying we're never, ever, ever going to go to food for anything, but what we don't want to happen is we don't want the food to control us. And that's usually what ends up happening. It controls us to where we are out of control. And that is what it's all about. And so I posted a link in the chat where you all can set up to where you can have a conversation with me, because if you're struggling with stress eating, you don't want it to prolong, okay? Because it is difficult, and it is something you really want to have support with. And I will reach out to you personally to schedule, okay? So I just wanted to definitely let you know just how passionate this subject is to me. And so, tips for reducing your stress, okay? So the reality is, it's difficult, but it's possible. Okay. I don't want you to feel like, okay, I'm stressed all the time. It's never going to get better, but we got to know how to adapt. We got to know how to deal, right? And one of the ways, and I'm gonna give 10 real quick. And so one of them is positive attitude. One is a lot to be said about having a positive attitude. We know we're dealing with a situation, so we got to figure out how to navigate through it. Okay. And it's never going to be perfect. Accept the events that you cannot control. Okay. That's probably one of the biggest stressors. We're trying to fix stuff that we can't even fix. Okay. So identify and acknowledge and recognize that there are some things that we just cannot fix. um, be assertive instead of aggressive. So assert your feelings, your opinions, your beliefs. Be honest. If something you don't like, something, talk about it. Don't hold things in. A lot of times we make that mistake as humans, is holding things in. Learn to practice some relaxation tips and techniques, meditation, yoga, just breathing, praying, being still. I think COVID forced us to all be still, right? I mean, most of us stressed out before it got better, but some is a lot to be said for just being still. Okay. Learn to manage your time more effectively. Okay, this is a huge one. Manage your time effectively. And the biggest one that I tackle with my clients is work-life balance. Okay, you gotta cut it off. You gotta cut it off. It's never gonna get done. If it's gonna get done, then they don't need you. Okay, you're gonna always have something to do. So we gotta have some boundaries there. Okay, you gotta have fun time. Set limits appropriately. Some people can't say no. I was this person. And who ends up stressed out when you don't say no? You do. So there's a respectful way to say no. There's a respectful way to decline. but you have to be true to yourself, and you have to know your limits, and you have to know what you truly can and cannot do, and you don't want your family to suffer, or you don't want your health to suffer. So you have to think about things like that too. Make time for hobbies and interests, okay? We get so caught up in the bustle and the hustle of the day that we don't travel, we don't have fun, we don't do fun things, we don't play games. So think about that. Have time for interests. Ask yourself, what do you do? What is your hobby that's totally unrelated to your job? What is your hobby? Think about that. Don't rely on alcohol, drugs, compulsive behaviors such as stress eating to reduce our stress, because we know at the end of the day, it usually makes us more stressed. It's a temporary band-aid. And so we want to try to find other ways that's going to help us get closer to the solution when we're dealing with our stress. Seek out support. This is something that a lot of times people don't do. They do not seek support. We're prideful, we're private. We don't want to seek help, but seek help, especially if it's something that you've been dealing with for years and you can't shake it. Get some support, some social support, okay? As well as professional support. And that's number 10, seeking out professional support as well. I mean, we have mental health counselors who are trained in stress management, okay? Utilize them. God put them there for a reason, okay? All righty. And so those are in a nutshell. Oh, I see some comments. So let me come out here. Definitely see some comments. Yep, hanging out and traveling more. Let me come out here to make sure I'm not missing any comments. Um, let's see here. I'm bad with my time. Okay, and I have to do better. So thank you for admitting that. A lot of times people will not admit that they are bad with their time. We all are. I know when I'm stressing and I'm feeling overwhelmed, the first thing that my first boundary that goes down is sleep. And so I start losing sleep. And then after 3, 4 days of losing sleep, then leads to, some stress eating. It leads to other things. You get more irritable. And so it just becomes a domino effect. And then you start getting behind on everything, and you just feel like there's this mountain and it's hard to tackle. So we want to try to get to a point where we know we got to manage things, but we don't want to unravel in the process. And that's the balance that we're trying to have. And it is difficult. Okay. That's why I say you don't want to do it on your own. It is difficult. Trust me. And so I have a question here. So which one of these do you feel hinders you the most? So I had mentioned a lot of different tips, but I have a few here that I posted that I think were kind of probably the bigger ones. But which one do you feel hinders you the most? Is it having a positive attitude? Accepting what you can't control, okay? Making time for yourself, hobbies, interests, compulsive behaviors, seeking social support. So that's positive friends, okay? Sometimes you got to be careful who you go to, right? Positive friends, or even professional help. So, and if it's something else that you feel hinders you, share that. But this is one thing that we can identify when we have our one-on-one talk together, because a lot of times people don't understand their triggers, or they don't know their triggers, or they're so engrossed into the stress and into the hole, because it's a pit, it's a hole that stress eating it will put us in, that they can't see the triggers. Okay, even though the same trigger may happen every single day, it's hard to see when you're in the middle of it. Okay. All righty. And so just to kind of wrap things up, so stress occurs again when our bodies have a difficulty ability coping, okay? And so we want to find ways to, because we know stress is not going away. So we want to find ways to deal with it in more healthful manners, and it will take time for that to happen. We don't want our health in our sleep, in our well-being, and our happiness to suffer. Life is way too short, right? Life is way too short. And so again, I just want to put up here, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. Let me help you at least identify your triggers, because knowing the triggers is half the battle. Okay. It really is half the battle. Hi, Ronnie. Thanks for chiming in, and thank you for sharing. Yep. Not managing your time effectively. Yes. And that's a big one. That's a big one. That's probably the biggest one that once people, I know some people who they have those boundaries set and they don't budge. Like they off work at this time, they're exercising at this time, they're doing, they have it together and they're not stressing. They have stuff going on, but they didn't get there overnight. But you have to stay true. You have to stay true to it. And you get tested when the storm comes, right? When everything's great, yeah, we can do all these things. But it's when the storm and when life throws some battles at us, how we really deal. And that's where we really know how far we gotta come or what more we need to do. So I thank you all for chiming in. I thank you all for engaging. I hope you all continue to join me as we're going to talk more and more about stress and how it affects us and how it affects our mind and our bodies and our souls. And so stay tuned for me next week. And this concludes what I have for your weekly dose of nutrition news for your mind and your body and your soul. And I look forward to seeing you at the same time next week. Thank you and have a blessed rest of your day.